Hey everyone, I'm Jason, and welcome back to Robot Wants It All. Today, I'm going to play the easy version of Robot Wants Justice. My goal will be to complete the level in under 5 minutes on the in-game timer. But before we delve into the gameplay, I'm first going to read the game's history. And now for the game history of Robot Wants Justice. This game began life about halfway through the development of Robot Wants It All as Robot Wants Love. It was not only a different plot, it was also going to be a stealth game, completely different gameplay. Not much of it was implemented, but I did have you sneaking past a few deathbots. The plot was about Robot obtaining an emotion chip so he could feel love. Of course, in traditional Robot style, this was subverted in the end by him realizing, as he tries to install it, that he already had one. It was inside you all along, which makes sense as he spent the previous 3 games seeking out pets to love. So this game began when I got stuck while making Robot Wants Love. I was distracted by intense rage as I learned about concentration camps my country was building just a few hours from my home. The very idea that my country could do this, and that some of my countrymen openly supported this, was so unthinkable that I was just in a spiral. How did we get to this place? In the end, the only way to get back to being creative was to make art from my anger and sadness. So, I was also struck by the events that Mike Hommel, the creator of Robot Wants It All, is describing. So I'm going to provide a bit more background on those events and describe my reaction to them as well. In June 2019, the U.S. news media reported on serious overcrowding and unsanitary conditions at migrant detention centers on the U.S. southern border. At the time, lawyers from the Trump administration argued in federal court that they were not required to provide toothbrushes and soap to children in federal immigration custody. Progressive Democratic Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez described these overcrowded detention centers as concentration camps, a term that gained traction among progressives. President Trump rose to power by demonizing Latin American migrants and oversaw a cruel and unconscionable immigration policy, which at one point involved removing children from their migrant parents as part of a policy to deter illegal immigration. American conservatives regularly and unfairly demonize illegal immigrants, many of whom have traveled to the U.S. to pursue asylum claims. I believe Congress should dramatically increase the number of Latin Americans who are legally authorized to immigrate to the United States, rather than rely on the heavy-handed immigration enforcement that has been the norm in the United States for many years, across several administrations. So I personally wouldn't use the term concentration camp. I think it is an accurate term, in that concentration camps don't have to exclusively refer to death camps, and that the Nazis had concentration camps that weren't death camps, and concentration camps, large civilian detention camps existed, prior to Nazi Germany. And I do think the term can be useful in just showing how significant the moral atrocity was and is. Well, I guess I don't think they're still as crowded now at the southern border, but at the time, it was really bad. But because the public so strongly connects the term concentration camp to the death camps of the genocide of the Holocaust, it's not my favorite term to use, but I do not dispute its accuracy. But yeah, I do think that Hommel just saying concentration camps without any further elaboration doesn't really provide the context that, does his moral outrage justice. To me, like, as someone who worked as a journalist, parsing very closely the statements of people in power and of primary source documents, it was pretty revealing when you had lawyers for the Trump administration in federal court who were arguing that they didn't need to provide children with toothbrushes and soap who were in the government's care. That to me is unconscionable. I mean, it is horrific. It is not something worthy of the government representing the country where I live. I never voted for Trump. I think he's a horrible person, both as a leader and to an extent in his private life, although I'm not really concerned in his private life. I'm concerned what he does with political power when people decide to give it to him against all reason. And as is often the case when bigots and tyrants gain power, the people they go after first are those who are most marginalized and most vulnerable and seen as least sympathetic by the broadest swaths of society. And illegal immigrants definitely fall in that category in the U.S. And the fact that so many of these horrors were being beset upon children is bad. I mean, it would be bad enough if these overcrowded and unsanitary conditions were happening to adults. I mean, that by itself should be a moral outrage. But the fact that this was being done to children, in particular, intentionally separating children from their families as part of a zero-tolerance policy to deter illegal immigration, which was part of the design of the policy from the beginning, is among the most horrible things done by the U.S. government in its long history. I mean, it's akin to separating slaves from their children, who were sold to different masters during slavery. It's akin to sending the children of Native Americans to boarding schools to Christianize them, to kill the Indian to save the man. It's taking them away from their families too. This is dark. It is really dark what my country has done in the past and has done in the recent past, even in my lifetime. Trump's going to run for president next time, in all likelihood. I hope that he doesn't win again, and I hope that we don't elect someone as morally bankrupt as him, because it was exhausting to live in a country where he was doing all of these horrible things on a regular basis. And sometimes it was funny, and sometimes it was horrifying, and sometimes it was both. But he won an election in 2016, and he came frighteningly close in 2020. I hope if my country has any sense they won't elect this tyrant again, but my country has not shown the best judgment in choosing its leaders thus far. But we'll see what the future holds. It doesn't look particularly bright at this point. But back to Mike Hommel's description of the game history of Robot Wants Justice. Just like a million stories before, it's a cartoonishly evil villain doing something so over the top that it's completely black and white. Tronk is a monster with no nuance or subtlety. That is not meant as a political commentary on any real-life figure. So, yes it is. You named him after Trump, and this is in reference to things Trump did. Of course it's a commentary on a real-life figure. This is absurd to claim otherwise. My hope is to remind you of simple morality. Right and wrong don't change depending on who is involved. People should not be caged and killed. I made Trunk's look and name as I did for this reason. Not to attack anyone real, but to get people to make the connection. If this action is wrong when Trunk does it, it's wrong in reality too. I know for most players this is painfully obvious, but there are still people who tie themselves in not to avoid it. So, I was very much exhausted by the people who tried to defend the indefensible when Trump did the indefensible all the time. But I think if you're going to make a game as a piece of political commentary, I don't think you should shy away from the implications that it makes. I think he's being a bit wishy-washy here. When it comes to politics, I understand that when you're talking about people who are alive, you don't want to be too harsh. But sometimes people deserve it. If somehow concentration camps are evil is too big of a stretch for you, I'm sad about that, but I won't debate you because it's too basic to even argue. This isn't high art, it's just punching penguins in the face for justice. So yeah, for these reasons discussed and Mike Hommel's reasons for creating the game, this is a much more political video than all of the other ones in this series of fun flash games where you go around collecting pets. I do think that probably the original concept of Robot Wants Love would have thematically made more sense as the bookend to this series, but I think that political commentary is valuable often, even in this case where it appears to be somewhat clumsily done. And then this was an opportunity to revisit the horrors of the Trump administration's immigration policy, which I probably would not have been motivated to do otherwise. So, let's play a game. My best time on the easy map of Robot Wants Justice is 2 minutes and 24 seconds. So I'm going to read the introductory text and then restart the game, because part of the introductory text takes place in the game proper, and taking the time to read it will add a bit of time to my playthrough, and I want the best time possible for this speedrun. But I also want to let you guys know about the lore of the game. It is the year 20XY. Robot has scoured the universe for animal friends. He has had a giant ice cream buffet, which it turns out he couldn't eat. He has gotten everything a robot could ever want, though generally in ironic and unfortunate ways. Then tragedy struck the galactic nexus. The planet Derpos exploded, as planets do on occasion. Millions of Derpoids died, and the few survivors are now homeless and desperate. With nowhere else to turn, the Derpoids accepted Emperor Trunk's offer of sanctuary on his lava planet. Enslaved and occasionally eaten as snacks, the Derpoids are suffering. Robot cannot stand idly by. He possesses a very particular set of skills which somehow vary from game to game, and people need his help. Robot wants justice. Oh, I think I'll try eating a Derpoid later. A robot, it better not mess with my cloning operation. So that is the introductory statement from Emperor Trunk, obviously a stand-in for Trump. So I'm gonna start the game over and see how well I can do. So these are the derpoids that we are saving. And in the bottom right hand corner of the screen you'll see the counter. We have 25 to rescue. You can complete the easy map without saving the derpoids, but I am going to take the time to do so, which makes this an all collectibles run of the easy map. Now we're going to get the derpoids, the upgrades, and the star. So Puppy is coming in a little mini spaceship and saving the derpoids. These spiky-haired enemies are ICE agents. ICE, of course, being Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, further expanding upon the metaphor of the game. I burped there a bit awkwardly. Fun little backing songs to the game. So you do not have to wait for Puppy to stop by, you just have to motion long enough for him to stop by eventually. Okay, the final part of the game is a bit tricky when you actually take on Tronk's cloning operation. There we go. So this platform is pretty convenient because a good number of the clones will fall onto it, and it's a good spot for pushing them off into the lava. The clones themselves look like adorable little plushies jumping to hug you, as opposed to something more menacing. But nonetheless, we are tasked with taking them down to stop Emperor Tronk and his reign of tyranny. There we go. Justice is served. Trunks' clone army has been destroyed. Robot got justice. Trunks' clone army has fallen, but he's still out there enslaving dirtboards. With a final time of 3 minutes and 2 seconds, that's not bad. Yeah, I've gotten to about 2 minutes and 30 seconds, but 3-minute runtime is still pretty good, so I will be posting this run to YouTube. Speedy, Agile, Bullseye, Superstar, Justice for All, Ultrabot, Easy Math. So, Ultrabot is for getting 5 or more green awards, not for collecting all of the upgrades, which was what I had previously thought that award was for. The explanation of what the awards are on the awards screen, not on the end of game screen where you get the awards. Justice for All is for collecting all of the dirtboids, which is the green hexagon next to the golden robot there, which is for the Ultrabot. And then of course we have a smiling dirtboid on the left screen in the background. So 3 minutes and 2 seconds. Not a bad time. Thank you all for joining me for this unusually political episode of Robot Wants It All. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it entertaining or educational or both. And until next time, have a great day.